Okay, we're here.
We're here and we're gonna talk about something sinister.
We are. This is Kate, everyone. So, Kate is our guest this week. As you know, some things have kind of changed with the podcast, so I have a different guest every episode, which is fun. And I'll probably reuse the same guest too, because
makes sense.
why not?
There's a lot to be said.
There is a lot to be said. Another thing too, I didn't give an update on where I'm at. I know previously, everyone, probably whoever watched, saw my dining room table if you've been to my house. Now I'm at my Airbnb.
Change of scenery.
Yeah, change of scenery. It's very pink. It's very girly. It's against Something Sinister. It's the complete opposite of that.
Very not
I feel like I need black curtains with blood dripping or something.
Something bloody.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is my Airbnb. It's called the Wild Rose. I'll do a little plug there. But yeah,
it's a must.
And
it's so cool. I mean, just having a space like this, especially to record a podcast, I feel like this could be your new setup for sure.
I know.
With so many rooms.
Yeah.
You could do a different theme in every room.
I could. We could be on the swinging boho chairs, swinging one day, recording a podcast, just holding the microphone. Yeah, but seriously, we have so many options. Yeah. So this episode, we are talking about the Moscow murders.
Lots of updates.
It's
getting crazy. It's getting a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something in my stomach is feeling weird about it. Very unsettling. And I'm why do all these updates come, when they come?
Yeah.
And it's just how is this all going to play out? And we're all just waiting. And I can't imagine even being a student at that college, because obviously the 1-year anniversary is coming up. And it's just everything is still looming.
Yeah. I can't even imagine, even just being remotely in the area in Moscow, Indiana, or Idaho, sorry. I cannot even imagine.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine.
And especially the college town aspect. And I know we're going to get into it, but going to Missouri State and living in the houses we lived in, people in and out. And you think to yourself, it's
you're safe.
And it could have happened to me. It could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy. Obviously, I'm glad nothing has ever happened like that here, but it goes to show that it can happen anywhere, and you really have to just watch out.
I know.
I mean,
you can't really prepare for that. Yeah, but just, I don't know, pray? What?
Yeah.
What do you do?
If you're the praying tab.
Yeah, I know, if you're the praying tab. But yeah, so we're going to talk about kind of the update of the Moscow murders. I did an episode on it previously last year, so you're more than welcome to go and listen to the episode. That gives the full story of what happened. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but definitely talk about the updates of the case. So before we get started, I will do our disclaimer so I don't get sued. Our videos and podcasts are for entertainment purposes. All information discussed was found on the internet. Keep in mind, we will talk all things sinister that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
You should do that in a really creepy voice.
Is advised. Anyway. Okay, so I normally do a drinking word too. So
what's the word?
I don't know. There's so many things that it could be. Maybe DNA. I think DNA would be a good one.
That's going to be a big one.
I think so too. Okay. We might have to grab that bottle.
I know. We're going to be camping out here.
I know. We will end up ordering food after this or something. So DNA, if you hear the word DNA, take a sip too. Cheers.
Cheers to DNA.
Mm-hmm. So, background of the story. Almost a year ago today, November 13th, 2022, Brian Koberger was a student at Washington State University studying his PhD in criminology. He ended up breaking into a home near the University of Idaho, one of the campus houses, or not really a campus house, but within the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And he murdered 4 students that went to the University of Idaho by stabbing them to death. It was insane.
I get chills.
I know.
Thinking about that, of all ways to go.
That would be brutal. Just shoot me.
Agreed.
One and done.
Yep. Don't
like
wanna...
consistent stabbing. I can't even imagine. And the number of stabs that they said was like insane.
Especially for the assailant too. Like you would have to be freaking
physically
exhausted
fit
from that.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll talk about a little bit of his body type, but like he was not like I don't know.
He wasn't an athlete.
Not at all. It was just pure rage. So 4 poor innocent people were murdered. Ethan Chapin, he was 20 years old. Madison Mogan, 21. Zaina Kernodle, 20. And Kaylee Goncalves, who was 21 years old. There were 2 roommates in the house that evening that lived. He didn't attack them, nothing like that. And one of them she's kind of been in the spotlight a little bit because people don't really understand her motive in this case, which that's one of my biggest questions too.
Same.
Her name was Dylan Mortensen. And what we know of this case is police were called 7.5 hours later after the murders took place. They showed up at the scene at 11:58 a.m. They then searched for a very long 6 weeks. So November 12th till the end of December until they finally were able to arrest Brian Koberger. They knew that he was a prime suspect, but they needed solid evidence to be able to connect him to all 4 of these murders. They tracked his vehicle, which was a white Hyundai Elantra. They then tracked his cell phone pings. They found his DNA in the house. First drink of the night through the story. Detectives found DNA on the bottom of a tan leather snap button enclosure of a knife sheath.
That's the kicker there.
That's
such a big piece, and it's like it came out of thin air, but it didn't.
It was right there.
And it's like it was right next to her body.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously, when you're doing an act like that, you try to obviously not leave things behind.
Leave anything behind.
But it's crazy that that's like the one thing that was left behind.
Yeah.
Because it gives so much indication into obviously what was used. Right. And I feel like that, in a sense, could have given them a good advantage of narrowing it down. But now knowing kind of what we know, it really has nothing to do with him.
No, it has nothing to do with him.
It's like out of left field. Like,
Yeah.
how did this guy get this kind of knife? Like,
right.
I mean, obviously his background in criminology and criminal justice, it's like, that's also kind of a very interesting piece, is that he was studying these things.
Yes.
So, and then another thing that I kind of read, and this is kind of getting into the backstory, but he was conducting this research and he was reaching out to inmates and asking them, like, how did you pick your victims? And like, and I'm like, that just freaking blows my mind that it's like this person is asking these questions. He was posting on Reddit, like, how do I pick a victim?
He was preparing.
But then it's like, does that mean nothing?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like actually one of the cases that kind of has blown my mind about the justice system and all of the steps and all of the hoops that you kind of have to jump through when
in order to solidify a case.
Yes. And it's like, we'll get to it with the DNA, but it's like, how is that not enough?
Yeah.
And it's just is really crazy that, you take the suspect that you're like, okay, we got him, like we have him, but it's like, you may not.
You may not have him.
And that's even more scary. It's like this guy, could get away with something like this. And then we have, what are the other leads?
Right. There are no other leads.
And just the roundabout way that they kind of got him with the phone and the car. And then, they got that warrant to search the trash outside of his parents' house. And I'm just like, all of these roundabout ways.
All the dots are connecting that it's him.
And it's just wild.
It is wild. And, outside of the knife sheath, there was a shoe print found outside of Dylan's bedroom door on, the floor. The one thing about the knife sheath, which Kate was just talking about, is the knife sheath had KA-BAR, which is a known United States Marine Corps item that's typically found on these knife sheaths. Well, he wasn't a Marine. He wasn't in the military. His dad wasn't in the military. There's like no connection with any of this. So
and I would assume it's not something that you can just go like to Walmart and buy.
No. I mean, obviously you'd be able to find it at like a pawn shop or online or whatever, but like, in my opinion, he did that on purpose. Like, he didn't want people to think that it was him, so he found something that was totally unconnected to him to be able to leave behind. I think he left it intentionally behind. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Fast forward to December 28th, the Idaho State Lab reported that the DNA profile obtained in the trash of his parents in Pennsylvania was a 99.9% match of the DNA of Brian Kohberger. So, not only did the DNA on the knife sheath match the trash in his parents' house.
Yeah, saying that it was the DNA is the father of the killer.
Yes.
Like, okay, then.
So then that's him. That's him.
I just, like, that's one of the things that I wish I had researched a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is specifically, like, do they need, without a doubt, 100% match? Or if it's 99 point whatever percent, then it's like.
Yeah, I think it's like 96 and above. And, you know, the thing about it is you would think that would be solid evidence for the case, which it was. That was solid evidence for them to make an arrest. But now, through the whole trial process, now, you know, the jury has to hear the defense and the prosecution. And they want to see all the different sides of the evidence to be able to determine if he truly is guilty. I mean, I think he's going to be found guilty, but we'll see.
I don't know. I could, just like with how much true crime that we've watched. And, I mean, it's almost like a Hollywood story.
It really is.
It's like everything is laying out perfectly, but all it's going to take is that one thing. And I hope, you know, I'm hoping that it's
solidified.
Not. But obviously you don't want somebody who's innocent getting charged. But I just don't feel like that's where we're at here.
I don't think so either. You know, a couple other things connecting him to this case, obviously his vehicle. And that was a big part, I think, in my research that I found. His vehicle was found on King Road in the neighborhood multiple times.
Speeding away
on camera.
Like at 4:30
3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. He was going throughout the neighborhood over and over and over again.
It's like, where else are you going, bud?
Yeah, he passed the house 3 different times. And even on camera, it was shown that he had attempted to park the vehicle, like right in front of the house, and then turn around and left, leaving at a high rate of speed. And they determined, obviously, that it was his vehicle. They saw his vehicle traveling back towards Washington State University later. And then they see his vehicle going cross country after the murders happened. So he traveled from, obviously, Idaho all the way to Pennsylvania, where his parents live.
Which was a good call on the police. I mean, think about, like, they had to have known pretty, you know, definitive that this is probably our guy. Yeah. For them to track him
all the way across the country. I mean,
that's a cross-country trip.
Yeah. And for that highway patrolman in Colorado who pulled him over to immediately know who he was. His body, but obviously he couldn't say anything.
Yep. His body language and his behavior was just weird.
And his dad? Like, his dad has to know.
I know.
Like, his dad clearly went out there to move his son out, to move him back home.
Yeah, it's like, what's this abrupt change? Like, you got a 3rd degree, so, like, what are we doing here?
Right. So wild. It's so wild to me. And then going into the evidence of the phone pings, they were able to see, you know, where his phone had pinged through the cellular towers. And he had visited the residence 12 times prior to
months.
12 times prior to November 12th. So he was stalking them, and it would occur anywhere from late in the evening to early in the morning to midday. It was all throughout the day, like throughout a 24-hour period.
I'm like, honestly, I was shocked that we didn't hear more of that.
I am too.
Because I'm like, to me, that seems textbok.
That's stalking.
I mean, we'll get into the social media aspect of that later, but I mean, you have this guy, he's going there, and then you obviously have this extremely heinous crime that's committed, and all signs are pointing towards him. Right. So it's just, I mean, it's wild.
I know.
How everything's kind of come together and all the pieces that continue to come out, and I'm sure, like, as December 1st approaches,
yeah,
we'll learn hopefully a lot more.
A lot more. I'm hoping.
But I kind of have a feeling that they're scrambling.
I do too.
In a sense, and especially, October 31st through November 2nd, they reopened the house back up.
Right.
Because that
to find additional evidence.
That place was supposed to be torn down already.
It was supposed to. That was the plan, and they halted it. The FBI halted it.
And I'm just like, well, almost a year after, what else could you be going there to get?
I know.
But they obviously brought the 3D cameras in, and they're doing, completely redoing the entire house as far as the imaging goes. And hopefully, I don't know what they're looking for.
I don't either.
In terms of that, but...
Well, the technology really hasn't changed, from last year to this year. The only advance in technology is AI. And what's AI going to do in this? They're not going to do anything.
They're behind. They're a little
they are.
Anyway.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
Don't even know.
Yeah,
they might know who Brian Koberger is.
Maybe, but still, I mean, if you think about it in that term, technology hasn't changed. Yeah. We don't have additional cameras or lenses or lasers or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's wild.
And I don't know what the standard procedure is, what the inside of the house looks like. Do they clean up all the blood and all that stuff? Or what does it look like? Is it just completely bare now? I'm really just kind of racking my brain of what are they getting there?
Well, and I think if you think about a normal crime scene, so, you have the detectives that go in, the forensic, analysts that go in as well, criminologists, whatever. They look for the evidence. They take the crime scene photos. They try to find anything that's going to help the case. And then you have the cleaners come in behind. And they come in and they clean everything. And their job is to clean everything, to get rid of the blood.
Right.
And so,
biohazard.
Yeah. So what are they... The only thing that I can think of, they still haven't found the murder weapon. So unless they're looking for that, but you would think that they'd be able to determine that it's not there.
Agreed. Or just nailing down 100% the entry.
Maybe.
But I'm like...
Because that's speculated, too, that he came in through the back door.
But I just don't necessarily know, what that would...
Yeah, how is that going to do anything?
I don't think it's going to change anything.
I don't either.
The way he did it was weird anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, trying to come up with that thought process of... I just don't think that that's going to be what's going to get it.
I don't either. I think what got it is the DNA and the cell phone pings and his vehicle.
And that's another thing with that house, just being a college house. I can only imagine showing up to that crime scene and trying to determine, okay, there's been 50 people in this house.
Oh my God, at least.
I can only imagine how many DNA profiles they had to go through to just narrow it down.
To try to find his.
Yeah, because I was reading this thing and it was more people in the town of Moscow had been in the house than not. And I'm like, that, that explains it perfectly of what a college house is like. You have no idea. People are coming in and out, boyfriends, girlfriends, whoever.
Yeah.
So that, I'm sure, just made it extremely difficult for them to figure out, okay, is that Billy's footprint or is that,
or is that Brian's?
Yeah, who knows?
I know. So fast forward to December 30th, in Pennsylvania, he was arrested. Again, what we know the night of the incident that took place is the 4 roommates were out separately. 2 of them were together. The other 2 were together. And Mogan and Goncalves ended up showing up at home around 1:56 a.m. And then Ethan Chapin and Kernodle returned home around 1:45. The 2 other roommates had already been there. They got home around 1 a.m. From the probable cause document, the 4 were murdered between 3 and 4 a.m. and on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the home. And if you look at the home, you see the front door and it's on the 1st floor, but it's the basement level. And then you see the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor up above. And so from the back of the house, it's the back door is on the 2nd floor.
Right.
So
there's not a way
to enter to the front, to the 1st floor, which is strange. But what's even more strange is, so all of the girls had gone to sleep. Everyone was going to sleep. Even they DoorDashed in Taco Bell, which was legit minutes before, according to the forensic psychologist, minutes before they were murdered. And so, the original theory was, well, the Taco Bell driver was really Brian Koberger, but that determined that's obviously not true. But, Yeah, so Dylan Mortensen, the whole thing about her, she ends up hearing what she thinks is one of her roommates playing with a dog, kind of banging noises, shuffling down, the hall or whatever, or in the room up above. She opens up her door to hear one of her roommates say, "There's somebody in the house."
I'm sorry, but
that gives me chills.
If anybody remotely says anything close to that, and it's after, let's say,
any time in the day, it doesn't even matter.
Like,
I'm calling 911.
Or I'm gonna go be like, "Yo, are you fine? Yeah. Like, I just heard you say someone, are you okay?"
Yeah, like that, who's in the house?
That was my biggest thing, probably the most unsettling thing, is the roommates that didn't get killed, which obviously glad they're alive and well.
Obviously,
that's a blessing that they were spared, but it's just very eerie almost that they were awake or coherent through the whole thing. They could hear
what was going on.
And I'm like, you can't tell me that being on the first floor of a house and everybody lives upstairs, you don't hear.
You hear everything.
I mean, you can hear people almost, I can hear somebody's alarm going off. I mean, just thinking about my own experience of living in a shared house, you can hear everything.
You can.
I mean, I'm sure, the first second that you get stabbed, you're probably going to let out some kind of a sound.
Well, and again, like she says, the second time she hears whimpering coming from Kaylee's room or Zaina's room. And so it's like, what the fuck? So she hears whimpering, and then she goes back into her room, and then she opens up the door again, and that's when she's greeted by a man in black clothing, about 6 feet tall, about, she said, like 180 pounds.
Bushy
eyebrows with a mask on and gloves. And he just like stood there and froze. And she froze. She didn't know how to react. And then she just runs in her room and shuts the door.
Hides under the covers like we all did as a kid. And it's like, oh, it's going to go away.
Yeah, but then like you don't call 911. You call your friends.
Yep.
Or text your friends to come over that something happened. They come over, and then the 911 call is made at 11:58 a.m.
And I know we're kind of jumping around there, but like going back to that point, how many friends had come into the house?
Yeah.
And I understand being
and disturbed evidence.
Yes, and I understand being in a situation. It's obviously I've never experienced a murder, so I can't speak to that. But
no.
I feel like you would have the common sense to understand that something has happened and we need help. This is not something that This is not something I'm going to call Alexa and be like, hey, come over here and check this out. Like, no offense, but you're not going to be able to do anything about it.
No.
We're going to come to the same conclusion. They're dead.
Yeah.
And exactly. I can't imagine just like being in that house and wait. And I don't know. I know what the smell of blood smells like because Connor hurt himself one summer.
Yeah.
And just that minuscule amount, I can smell that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in a house where 4 people were murdered and it was seeping out
through
of the
home
walls into the foundation outside.
Into the foundation. Yeah.
So I don't understand that. And I know that
either.
We're going to probably find out more about that, hopefully.
I would hope so.
But it's very difficult with the gag order that they have because they're not trying to let any information leak out that's going to change the opinion of the jurors, which I totally understand, but it's like...
We need something. Yes. We need some information. And whenever the probable cause document came out last year, we were like, oh, okay, good. We have a little, or I guess it was this year, we have a little bit of like a break in the case.
Yep.
But...
No.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's almost like it's this super awesome thing and then it almost kind of fizzles out and leads nowhere.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this, what they have coming up will be something concrete that they can provide because this judge, I'm sure he's like, he's doing everything he can, but I did read that December 1st deadline, he wants all the evidence presented at one time. He's not going to go through piece by piece, if you give it to him today and next week, he's like, I want it all at once. So it's like, I just really am hoping that they can...
That the prosecution can perform.
Put something together.
I know, I do too. Kind of talking a little bit about Dylan Mortensen, like, I try to put myself in her shoes. I try to understand if I were in a house and I had heard the things that I heard, and then I see a man in all black right outside of my door. Like, what am I going to do? In reality, you would think just in general as a woman, you're going to call 911 anytime that you're scared, or you're going to call your parents or whatever. But then they're going to tell you what? Call 911. Something isn't right. What did she do for, let's give her an hour grace period because she talked to her friends. What did she do for 6.5 hours?
And how do you go back to sleep?
Yeah.
Knowing that?
Right.
That I just like saw some random dude, like if somebody just walked through the door right now.
And I heard that somebody was in the house.
I'm like, okay, just gonna go.
And everything just went silent?
Yeah. I'm sure that wasn't a very restful night, but I don't know.
Yeah. The only thing that I can think of is like, was she drunk? Was she like to the point of like blackout drunk? But then if she was blackout, she wouldn't be able to recall.
I agree.
What she saw.
I agree. Or it wouldn't line up.
Right. She wouldn't be a credible witness.
No, not at all. And I understand the drinking thing. And I mean, but most people, you know, if you come home and you have been drinking a lot, you're going to pass out like that.
Yeah.
So the fact that they didn't, I mean.
And she was awake. And
then, you know, felt the need to like, you know, have a texting conversation about what was going on with the other roommate.
Yep.
It's just kind of concerning that nobody thought to do anything to protect. At the minimum, this is protecting your friend, somebody that you really care about. Obviously, you live with them, so you like them enough,
right, to protect them.
You couldn't even.
You didn't even protect yourself.
Maybe it's just some kind of strange form of paralysis where they just freaked out and just couldn't act. And I remember being 21 and being scared, but never.
But not like that.
Never
I feel
like
like I would have called 911.
Even extremely inebriated, like nothing. I was always in control. Like I could always do something.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just I don't really quite understand.
Her dad just did an interview the other day. Well, not the other day, but not too long ago, talking about how Dylan like isolates herself, and she's been getting death threats, and you know, she only has a close group of friends. She didn't go back to school, you know, stuff like that, which
it's like obvious. I mean,
yeah, obviously, but it's sad. Like, I hate that happens, but you know, there's so many things with this case. She has a gag order. She can't talk. She can't come to the public and say anything, you know, that she experienced, that she saw, that she witnessed, that how she feels, nothing like that. I feel for the girl. I really do, but I have so many questions.
Yeah, and it's being in her position with the gag order, it's like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a good lawyer that you're working with, and hopefully you're being truthful and telling them, you know, everything that you know, and you're not leaving anything out to protect anybody. But I don't see that being the case here. I just think it's just one of those things where they're going to get in the weeds, and they're just going to have to, you know, really tough questioning and not necessarily break her, but we got to get to the root of it.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to have to find out if they haven't already.
And hopefully she hasn't been, you know, talking to other people outside of the case, because that is a very serious implication to not.
Yeah.
But the last thing you need is, you know, details getting leaked out, and then it just gets it could get completely twisted and derail the entire case.
Yeah, and then the jury is going to affect the jury, and it's going to affect the validity of the evidence.
Yep.
I think, again, like, the only solid evidence that we have is the DNA evidence of the knife sheath, the cell phone pings, and the vehicle. Those are the three things that are solid in this case.
I agree.
You know, another thing, too, that I wanted to talk about is... before I jump to it, I'm not going to jump to it because it's so interesting. But obviously, you know, Brian Koberger is being accused of 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary. He's declined to offer any sort of plea deal. He even declined to plea in court. And so the judge had to enter in a not guilty plea for him because he is not cooperating at all. And...
which is extremely contradicting because at the very beginning of the case, the first thing he said was, I can't wait to be exonerated.
Yes.
And now
he's not even speaking.
And he's waiving his right to a speedy trial, which is going to push this out indefinitely. It's like, that makes me think, he knows way more than what we know.
Yeah.
Why else would you want to delay it?
Oh,
why else would you want to be uncooperative?
Yep.
If you didn't do it.
Yeah, if you didn't do it, you would be wanting a speedy trial
100%.
because that gives like a 6-month period of you have to find solid evidence from the date of the arrest in order to be able to charge a person with a crime. Like, that makes he's going against his defense too. And I'll talk about a little bit here in a minute of what, like, my thought about it. But then we get into, like, the warrant with the social media and the Google searches and the Reddit accounts and how he had multiple accounts created.
It's crazy that the parents discovered a lot of this.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I mean, I understand. Again,
they're protecting their child and they don't really know. Yeah. Okay.
But it's like, is that helping or is it hurting?
It's definitely hurting.
Because I feel like, you know, the police, they can only do what they can do with their manpower and the hours and all that stuff. And and I do think that, you know, like the online vigilantes that are, you know, I understand that whole thing. Obviously with the Don't Fuck with Cats Netflix series, that was kind of the first time that we saw people really solving a crime.
Right.
And I think that there is a sense where it can be helpful, but it's almost like, let these people do their job. They are trained to solve these kinds of things.
Right.
So maybe, you know, save that for another day. Just save it. You know, if that's what you want to know and that's, you know, what you're standing on as far as this case goes. But like, just let them do their job. Yeah. I feel like it's just going to keep interrupting things.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to continue to push out this trial.
And especially with social media. It's like they did, you know, find that Brian Kohberger was following Maddie and Kaylee, but it's like with social media these days, I could create an Instagram account, you know, being him. I could create a fake Kate Kohberger, Alexa Kohberger.
Yeah, however many accounts that you want.
Because that was one of the things where they were pointing that out. They were like, we thought that was legit because he was following and others were following him that were in his family. I'm like, but you just don't know.
Yeah.
But
you don't know how social media works.
But it is crazy. It's like, well, what if, you know, that is true?
Yeah.
That goes back to the whole stalking thing.
Yes.
And especially in social media, that's the easiest place to
find where people are at or what they're doing.
Y'all, it is crazy. If you're not being safe online, specifically social media, please do that right now.
Yeah. Please be safe.
I mean, it's just anybody can find anything on you.
Anybody can find anything on you. They can find wherever you're at. And especially, I mean, put yourself in like a 21-year-old's shoes.
They're all
What
over.
are you doing? Yeah. You are posting,
and drinking, and
wherever you are at every single moment, every single minute of your life is social media.
It's documented. It would be very easy to understand their routine. And then obviously, you know, he was paying attention to that if he was driving by. So it's not hard to know when people are coming home and when they're leaving to go to class. Obviously, you have a book bag. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's crazy.
So who do you think he was stalking?
I've heard different things back and forth between Maddie and Kaylee.
Yep.
And I think if I get this correctly, Maddie was stabbed first. Or was it Kaylee?
I thought it was Kaylee.
So what I heard the other day was that Maddie was on the outside of the bed, Kaylee was on the inside of the bed, so that essentially she was kind of trapped in. So if you think of like a twin bed against a wall, that's where Kaylee was.
Okay.
So that's what I heard, that Maddie was stabbed first and then Kaylee was stabbed second. So that was kind of confusing. But then I also heard the flip-flop story. That Kaylee was on the outside, she was killed first, and Maddie was second.
Okay, but where the knife sheath was found next to
Maddie's body, which
would be the emotional connection.
And if you think about that, like, it would make sense that it dropped initially because then he would have been leaning over her to get to Kaylee.
Yeah.
But, and then I also heard that he was, you know, liking pictures on...
Yeah, I read that on Reddit.
On both of their accounts. But it's just hard to know because we can't... That's not something that's in stone. We don't know if was him.
If it's truly his account, unless he was to say, yeah, it's my account.
But, I mean, they're all cute girls, and it's just...
I don't know. I think having the knife sheath next to Maddie's body, that's a definite emotional connection. I think he truly intentionally left that knife sheath there. Because it wasn't like he was running down the hallway and it fell.
Right.
Like, it was, in my opinion, intentionally placed at the edge of the bed.
Yep. And that was like the first, that's like what kicked off the entire murder. Was that obviously the first time he ever removed it, it didn't get put back on. So that was like, you know, the very first thing that he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
Unreal.
I really do wish that they can kind of figure out the social media side of things and do some more digging. Just maybe. Too. And I mean, everything you can find on social media and online in general. But I would like to know, like, is there any more connection that we maybe don't know about? Deleted messages? I don't know. Can you recover deleted messages on Instagrams? Like somebody sends you a DM.
Right.
I mean, because maybe
you see that stuff.
And especially now with all the different folders that, you know, your requests folder, and then there's like one beyond that that's like even deeper. It's like, are these messages like sitting there and nobody has recovered them? Or I'm really curious on that point.
Yeah, I am too. I'm very curious. I hope that we get a little more information, like you said, on December 1st about all of that, because I feel like that will even more solidify him to this case. So, you know, going into Reddit, you know, obviously he had posted on there that he was interviewing, you know, prisoners. He also had posted multiple like posts or polls on there, you know, regarding, I think one of them said, trying to understand how emotions and psychological traits can influence decision making when committing a crime.
Bro, that goes beyond your research for your school.
Yeah, way beyond your research for your school. And if I remember correctly, didn't he try to like do an internship at the local police department or something?
I didn't hear that, but
I think he did.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, that just gives him another
avenue. I swear it was him. That like just triggered my memory.
I mean, the whole criminal justice background thing.
Yeah, that's creepy in general. You know, how they are trying to connect, you know, him to this case. And then he has almost a PhD in criminology.
Right. He has the insider knowledge of, you know, the mind of a killer and how to speak to them and ways that they, you know, can get out of things.
Right. So, so the defense attorneys are currently trying to get the case to be dropped and all of the evidence thrown out, but the judge is not having it. The defense just argued the other day on October 28th that the grand jury was given incorrect instructions during the trial, and the judge was like, we've been following the same rules for 100 years. They were not given incorrect instructions. These have been the same instructions that every jury has followed. So obviously, you know, the judge denied that. He just waived his rights to a speedy trial. So again, he's wanting to extend this out, probably have this go into a mistrial, if 100%. I were to guess. And, you know, the judge has denied all of this. He thinks that there's sufficient evidence, but like you said, he's wanting all of the evidence presented to him by December 1st. Like, he doesn't want to wait anymore. And I don't blame him. He was arrested December 30th.
Almost a year, yeah.
Yeah. Like, come on, guys. Get your shit together.
And I feel like they have gathered a lot up front. So I'm really curious as to what the back half of all that DNA evidence is going to look like. How much more is going to come out? Are they going to start pointing fingers at other people?
Right.
Because maybe that's why, you know, they reopen the doors back up to the house. They're trying to find another avenue because maybe they're like, maybe this guy isn't
Maybe there was an accomplice.
Or an accomplice.
Maybe one of the roommates knew that it was going to happen.
And then there was this outlandish theory that I heard that, it was a drug deal gone bad.
Oh, and my God.
I hate when people point the finger at that.
This is far from a drug deal.
Yes. I'm like, okay, yeah, college kids occasionally do drugs.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mom, that it was a thing.
Right.
But for 4 people to be stabbed.
No.
It's not that.
This was an emotional killing.
100%.
He was fueled by adrenaline and rage. And like you said, I mean, his stature, he was, about 6 foot, 180 pounds, not like that big of a guy. He wasn't in shape, like wasn't a bodybuilder by any means, like a normal, normal man. And for you to be able to have that much strength and that much passion in these killings, like,
agreed.
This was not a drug deal.
No.
This was 100% intentional. I 100% think that he was after Maddie and possibly Kaylee. I think everybody else, unfortunately, they were just there at the wrong place, wrong time.
Totally.
And I think towards the end of it, after the 4th murder, he was exhausted. And that's why he did not kill Dylan Mortensen.
I agree.
Whenever he saw her in the hallway, he was exhausted.
I agree. And I also did see something else that, after he killed Maddie and Kaylee, that he obviously had to go to another level to get to Xana and Ethan's room. And I thought I saw that she had seen him. And so that was maybe a potential reason why Ethan and Xana got killed, because he saw that they saw him. Yeah. So he was like, while I'm here.
They were awake. They just got Taco Bell DoorDash.
Yeah. So I do really agree with you about the Maddie and Kaylee. I mean, those two were thick as thieves, went to high school together, came to college, roomed together. I mean, all their pictures, everything you see, they're inseparable.
Best friends.
They were sleeping together in a freaking twin bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I don't like sleeping
next to anybody
in a
that
king
close.
bed. Don't even get close. So let alone a twin bed. Like,
right.
You just have to picture it like they
were like sisters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it could really have, and maybe the lines there are a little bit blurred. Maybe both of them were kind of his targets, and he just wanted to, he didn't 100% know what the situation was going to be when he got into that room. So it was maybe going to be a, kill whoever's first and then deal with the second person and get out.
Right.
But it is crazy. And then I think one of those girls, or maybe it was Xana, that had a dog. Yeah. That was like locked up in a closet, and the dog was fine.
The dog was fine.
But it's like somebody put the dog in the closet.
Well, I have a joke about that here a little bit.
Oh, God. It's very morbid.
I know it is morbid. But yeah, seriously though, like.
And then going back to the, I don't have the exact statistics for it, but you don't have very often where somebody just breaks in and they kill people. No. They're not breaking in to kill you. No. They're going to steal your shit and leave.
Yeah, they're breaking in for a reason. And if you're home, then you are collateral damage, unfortunately. 100%. And this he wasn't going there to break in. He was going there to kill.
Yeah. So for that aspect of the completely random, I 100% do not think it was random at all.
Not at all. It was planned. I mean, we know that it was planned. He had circled around the house 12 different times within a period of time, like months.
Well, and they're even saying, he could have gone in there.
Yeah, because
I 100% believe
if they left the back door unlocked,
and with the layout of that house to know, like,
how would you know exactly where he was going? He had to have gone into that
with
house.
How many stories there are for him to go second floor, third floor, and then get out of there.
Yeah, and they determined like the phone pings. He would be there for like 5-10 minutes at a time. Sometimes just driving by. He definitely went into the house. Yeah, definitely before he had to know where the girls slept.
Which is very eerie to think about that.
It's terrifying.
That's why I yell at Connor when he leaves the garage door open.
Oh my God. Or even like a window unlocked.
He's like, well, I'm here, so the garage,
it doesn't matter.
Like, you don't know. Somebody could just walk right in.
Someone
could walk right in. They can be very quiet.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So. No, that's terrifying. So currently, Brian is being held in maximum security at Latah County Jail, County Jail in Moscow, Idaho. The jail is tiny, and it roughly has like 19 inmates at all times.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, it's a 2,000 square foot jail, which is smaller than this house, if you think about it. Yeah. He is being held on protective custody, maximum security. Mm-hmm. He cannot have any communication with any other inmates, period. And they say that he's been losing a lot of weight recently.
He's suicidal and all this stuff.
Yeah, that he's suicidal, but he can walk up and down the halls like smiling. other inmates say.
And show up to court in a suit.
Yeah, show up to court in a suit. So I think, okay, so I have a joke here. This is really bad, but apparently he's a vegan. So that's why he let the dog live.
He spared her. Thank you.
Yeah, I know, but seriously.
Seriously, though.
That's why he let the dog live.
Well, and I think it was Maddie or Kaylee that worked at a vegan restaurant.
Yeah.
So he could have very well, that could have maybe sparked the entire thing.
That's probably why he became a vegan.
It's true, maybe. He saw some hot-ass waitress and then...
Yeah. Then he started stalking them.
Yeah, it went down very quickly from there.
Yeah. So what I want to get to is this case is so similar to Ted Bundy and the sorority house. Like, I hope they find on his Google searches or Reddit searches a connection.
Yeah.
Because I think he studied the Ted Bundy sorority house killings to a T. The only thing different in that situation with Ted Bundy is he used blunt force trauma. So he had like a tree bark, like a big log that he used to kill the women in the sorority house. But he had been in the house before. They know that. He went to the rooms intentionally to murder those women. He saw one of the girls that lived there as he was exiting out, the back door.
It is very parallel.
He's losing weight. Ted Bundy lost weight whenever he was in jail. Why? So he could escape.
And I wonder, kind of going into his personality, how that aligns with Ted Bundy, because Ted was very similar.
He's very smart.
Outgoing.
He represented himself in court.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised, and I called this from day one, if Brian Kohberger started representing himself in this trial, because he's already waived his rights to a speedy trial. Yeah. He will not work with his defense attorneys.
Yeah.
I think he is a copycat of Ted Bundy. If he was able to interview other prisoners, and if he was able to do these social experiments that he did, there is no doubt in my mind, no doubt in my mind that he did not study and analyze Ted Bundy and the sorority house murders.
Yep. What a perfect field to go into to study when you're wanting to do something like this in
Very
your future.
similar. I think he idolizes him.
I agree. And I mean, my theory is he definitely did it.
Yeah.
And I think he's just prolonging the sentencing.
Yep.
I think he knows that he's going to get caught.
Yep.
But it's just a matter of time. And it's like, how much time can I get these people to waste?
Yeah. Time, money, resources.
And then the poor families that are still, obviously they, lost their kids.
Yeah.
And that's something that they will deal with forever.
Yeah.
And it's just like, they want this closure, and it's just not going to happen quickly. And I hate that for them. But I just hope that, this time really gives the detectives and everybody the time that they need to really, kick it into high gear. Yeah. Like the entire case is resting on this. If you can't figure it out, then there's nothing.
Well, and I think it's a good thing that the FBI is involved now. And I think that's why they reopened the investigation into the house, because obviously we know it was supposed to be demolished. But I think it is a good thing that the FBI is involved. So I hope that maybe they can find something else. But
why so late?
I know. Why so late? And if I think about the true crime world and any other crime committed, there's a solid amount of evidence. And for his defense to say that the knife sheath was intentionally placed, in the house and not by him, and they're framing him,
oh God.
Okay, who the fuck could be framing him, first
anybody
of all?
Could put that there anytime and put any DNA. I'm like, at any time it could have ended up right there as soon as she wakes up and she's dead.
Right.
So that was there last week, you're telling me? She just...
or somebody who came in and murdered everyone, they just intentionally put that, and they had your DNA on the knife sheath.
And it's why him?
No. Yeah, why him?
He's just some random...
Who would be framing you?
No.
Come on.
Yeah. It's crazy. And going back to kind of the DNA and how they use the investigative genetic genealogy, and they use, services like 23andMe to, come up with, okay, here's the
pool algorithm.
Here's the pool of Kobergers. Here's how we're going to narrow it down. And I thought that was very interesting because it was like
99.8% accurate.
And I'm like, how did they do that?
I know.
And the same thing with the car. There were 22,000 Hyundai Elantras between 2015 and whatever the year.
Yeah, right.
And it's just crazy that,
they were able to analyze
from that video.
Yeah. From that video.
The girl that worked at that convenience store, she didn't even initially, she wasn't going to check it because she was working. She was just like, oh, I had downtime at work, so I was going to, comb through it. If she hadn't done that.
Yeah. Like, we would have never known.
No. Because then it would have just been a random white car.
White car.
Who knows? I have a white car.
I know.
It ain't an
Seriously.
Elantra.
Yeah.
I didn't kill nobody.
Yeah, I didn't kill nobody. It's not between 2011 and 2017 or whatever.
But I think that just goes to show, like, it is an extremely hard job to be a detective.
I can't even imagine.
I mean, I can't even freaking figure my own shit out.
Yeah, you have zero room for mistakes.
Like, how can you just figure this out completely from scratch and piece everything together? I think it's amazing, the job that they do, and I really, really hope that, it works out.
I do too. I hope on December 1st we hear the solid evidence and we determine what's next. I mean, the prosecution is wanting the death penalty. Mm-hmm. So I 1000% agree. I think he needs to be executed. Mm-hmm. I don't think we need to pay $1 more of our tax-paying dollars. And I'm sure the entire state of Idaho would feel the same way.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah, that's all we can hope for. So,
and
December 1st.
I'm really curious as to what else is going to come out after that.
I am too.
Like, are they going to, where is the trial going to be? Are they going to set a date of when is the next hearing? And I just am really, really curious.
I am too.
I just hope they find something.
I do too.
And it's weird because I think, opening the house back up, taking the boards off the windows and all that stuff, I think the second reason they wanted to do that was so that the jurors could go through. Because I don't think that they had been there yet. Mm-mm. Which it's obviously now it's going to be completely different than it was if they had taken them then.
Right.
Which I don't even think that they probably would have taken them when it was,
it
so
was
gruesome.
Too graphic.
But now maybe, that will uncover something else. And the jurors, will walk into that house and get this eerie feeling that will tell them,
Can you imagine walking through that house?
I can't even imagine just like kind of living in that town and driving by or being a neighbor. I mean,
being the next door neighbor who heard later on their Ring doorbell camera, like moans and groans and crying and...
I know. And you
from the bedroom.
Yeah. You own investment properties. Like, just imagine if that happened here. It's like, it is crazy.
Total loss. We'd be burning it to the ground. Like, I don't know. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
And, going back to the thing with, his aunt was saying that he's, suicidal and all this stuff. I'm like,
I don't believe it. It's all an act.
Well, of course, like if I killed 4 people, then I probably would be feeling pretty shitty.
I don't think he's feeling remorseful at all. If he's walking up and down the halls of the jail, smiling and laughing, I don't think he has any remorse.
He's trying to get everybody and their brother to feel bad for him and be on his side.
Master manipulator.
Yeah, and just going back to the Ted Bundy, that's classic. That's like a line directly out of his playbook.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, I don't think he'll get away with it, but
I hope not.
I just don't really know how it's going to play out.
I know.
We'll have to do another update.
I know. After December 1st. Well, do you have anything else?
I don't. I'm just very, very curious.
I am
very, very. It just isn't a good feeling.
I know. It's like there's so many holes in this case, and we just need to know. Like, we got a little bit with the probable cause document, and then like that was it. And what I also think is very interesting is the family and the friends of the victims want all of this to be publicized. Like, they want cameras in there every single day. Like, they want people to hear what is going on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know. Maybe they'll get their way.
I know, and I did hear that the judge is going to allow video
Yes.
to a certain extent, which
Yes.
I feel like is important because
it is very important.
I think it's good to show people, the trial and all that stuff,
Yep.
and have
so
them,
too.
Look at
Yep.
look at him and just kind of understand the severity of it. But I do feel like that can also be a distraction.
It can.
So it's a very fine line that they're going to have to toe and just make sure that they're doing it right.
Right.
Because we don't need anything else. We don't need any more hands in this case.
No.
We just want to figure it the frick out and move on with our life.
Yes.
But I think it'll be interesting to be able to kind of watch that play by play.
Yeah.
I'll be watching.
So too.
I know you will be.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. As always, download our episodes, like us on all of our social media, and stay sinister.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.